Pierre, ready for a point counterpoint? Remember the old Saturday Night Live? Morning, Gretchen Smith.
Good morning.
Flagler Health Department, Dr. Steve Bickle in the studio.
Yes, I'm here. Glad to be here.
Wow. We're going to miss the birds chirping in the background, but we'll get over that. Anyway, Brian McMillan, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good to have you. All right, let's talk about Pierre's commentary, first of all, okay? Because, but he has a good point, which is the low unemployment rate, yet the truth is, businesses in this town, and just about everywhere I'm hearing around the country, but I'm really more plugged into Flagler County, horrible time trying to find people to work. But yet, the unemployment rate is really nice and so low. So, but the businesses are hearing, not that, and by the way, we're not trash talking the workers by saying you can make more staying at home than going to work. That is a motivation. It's not that they're lazy people. So, plus, I don't know, are we part of the propaganda machine?
I don't feel like I'm part of the propaganda machine.
I don't either.
All I know is that
I didn't know there was a machine.
When we talked to some business owners, they had firsthand knowledge of, people not showing up to their appointments in huge numbers. Out of 100 people or something, like 6 showed up to their interview, and what. Maybe they are jumping to some conclusions. I don't know. And the numbers are kind of puzzling, just like Pierre said, that if that's the problem, then why isn't unemployment still high and all that? But all I know is some of the business owners, I believe, had firsthand experience with, I'm not going to come in because I'm going to just stay home and collect my unemployment. So that may be in a very small minority of the cases, but enough businesses were saying it that we certainly felt like it was justified to do a story about it. So, but I'm not opposed to learning more. Well, so I'm sure there's a lot more to all these stories, and we should keep following up on that because it continues to be an issue. You see hiring signs everywhere.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's actually one of the reasons why we reached out to the Flagler Beach Business Bureau because we heard about all these restaurants that had employees that were out with COVID. So we reached out to them, and we're actually working with Johnny, and we've got, we've got Oceanside, we've got Finn's, we've got Golden Lion and Tortugas, and many more to come, but we're going to go to their workplaces and vaccinate their employees.
Great.
So that's one way that we...
So the problem is real with supplying labor needed. And but also, on his comment that we have some of the stingiest. It's also one of the lowest cost places to live in Florida. So I'm not saying the ratio there should be more, whatever to it, but it just costs a lot less to live here than New York or New England or Maine or some of those other states as well. So I'm not. But my whole point is there is a serious, real problem in getting people to work in Flagler County, which is what we're
trying to find
on.
this right now. But Jane Pfeiffer, who we've interviewed multiple times on this show with Volusia Manufacturers Association, she found the same problem. She said, we really thought, this is from our story a couple weeks ago, she said, quote, we really thought that the COVID pandemic was going to help us from this perspective, that so many people were disrupted in the tourism industry. We thought, boy, if we can capture them and make them aware of what's available in manufacturing, that maybe we could at least fix the pipeline a little bit, and we're not seeing it, that those jobs are not transferring, that manufacturing is still having a hard time getting people to work there. So, well, if
supply and demand works, then wages will rise, because if I was paying $15 an hour, now it's worth it to have somebody at $20 an hour. That's how it would work. Anyway, a good point. But yes, I am confused on why is the unemployment rate so low if all these people aren't working, and there's a big demand for people we're going to be doing another job fair, by the way, on May 17th at Hammock Beach Resort.
Cool.
Under the wedding tent. We're going to make it a fun thing, and then we're going to do kind of a business exchange from 4 to 6, kind of like the old chamber, like a business card, or not just every businesses can come out and network.
After hours.
Yeah, or during hours. Anyway, so that'll be May 17th, and try to help and get people that are looking for work and businesses looking to hire. Dr. Steve Bickle, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to
I'm
have
wearing
you.
my hiking outfit, so it's sort of like I'm in the woods.
I said, oh, who's this bird watcher coming across the parking lot? All you need is some binoculars, and it would be fit the part. Anyway, good to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what's happening with COVID at 9:30. We're going to go to Tallahassee. Senator Travis Hudson is going to give us an update on what's happening as the session is coming to a close and bills that he's introduced and things like that. But right now, Gretchen, kind of give us an overview. How are we doing in Flagler County with your numbers?
Well, let's see. This past week, it's been a pretty good week. We're averaging 17 cases, and as you know, a couple weeks ago, we were averaging like 30 cases a day. So that's headed in the right direction. We've got a positivity rate of around 5%, and we're seeing improvement in ER visits for flu-like and COVID-like illness. And I thought this was really interesting. I went through this morning and looked at the vaccination percentages. So right now we're at 50% of people over the age of 16 are vaccinated. So we've got a total of just under 50,000 people that are vaccinated. And it goes up, in increments of, 5 years. And so if we've got 50% of the people over age 16 vaccinated, we've got 79% of the people over 65% vaccinated. So it's kind of cool to look at the numbers and to see, how we're doing. But overall, I think we're doing pretty well.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
50,000 shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean...
It's actually 50,000 people, so I think it's
50,000
the
people,
shots is even higher.
So close to 100,000 shots ultimately. That's amazing. That's so much work, so many volunteer hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today, Friday, I heard you on the news saying that 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds today, something?
Yeah, there's the Emergency Operations Center is doing a vaccination clinic for people ages 16 and 17, and it's with Pfizer. So that's going on today.
So if you're 16 or 17, like my son, and is not going to that today, what do they do next?
Well, we have to wait till we get more Pfizer.
Yeah, that's the problem. The Moderna is only approved to 18.
Yeah.
And since we've mainly been getting the Moderna, we haven't been able to offer that. So
Gotcha.
whenever we get a Pfizer, we'll be up, trying to get it to the 16-year-olds.
And isn't Moderna, aren't they're doing trials and whatnot to try to lower the age?
Yeah, actually, there are trials in down to the 12-year-old age, and also even now, I think, the 2-year-old. But those are just starting. So the next few months, it's going to open up. Should anyway.
Go ahead.
No, and actually today, when I'm recording my show, which is going to be tomorrow morning at 11:30, I'm going to be interviewing David Bostardette to see how things are going in the schools and how COVID, a year later, how COVID has really impacted things in the schools. I was talking to my colleague, Stephanie Ear, who's head of, she's the school coordinator for Flagler County. And I said, how are things going? And she said, it's kind of ebbing and flowing. But she said, all things considered, it really hasn't been that terrible. So
it's complicated, the whole, the pandemic and the COVID, and we've all been, what we've tried to do for the last year was kind of get everybody every week or every day little bits of information as it came out. And there was a lot of research being done, and some of the research proved not to be so good, and others, seemed to be good. But at the same time, we kept, just kind of putting out. And Steve, you were great in kind of filtering it and putting focus to what our message has been over the last year. And it's kind of funny, that the propaganda machine, there's a lot of people in this town that listen to the station think that we are part of the propaganda machine of the health department, and we're leading everybody astray. And I've shared some of the emails I get from people, or I get phone calls that, they can't believe that we would be trying to get people to get a vaccination when in fact, they shouldn't be. And they've come to that conclusion. And I found a lot of people I know, friends, business people, and that we're kind of, I don't know if I am, I don't know if I'm not. It's like they're going one way or the other. Either, okay, I've decided now I'm not going to get it. And I said, well, how did you come to that conclusion? And it was online family members and friends that sincerely believed they were saving their life by telling them, don't get it, whatever you do, don't get this vaccination. As I saw this article from some doctor where in 3 years there's going to be blah, 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 blah to it. So here, we're trying to do is present what I think is the most common sense medical information available to us at the time. A year ago, there was a lot less information available to us, and we did the best we could. And I've answered emails back to people. I say, I believe everybody that's on the show, Gretchen, Bob, Dr. Bickle, and all of us, we believe that we have given you the best information that we had at that time. And if the information would change, we would say, okay, well, now you don't have to wear rubber gloves, every time you go to the grocery store and that kind of a thing. So, Dr. Bickle, you sent me a pretty good article about research and how people form I'll let you kind of explain it because you're the one that sent it to me and you read it more thoroughly. But how, when we get a little bit of information or research on something, go ahead and take it from there.
Okay, well, it's, just to kind of reinforce what you just said, science, unlike what people may think in the public, is a very messy process. It doesn't proceed just in a linear fashion. You learn one thing, you learn another, it all agrees, and you just keep moving on. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes 2 steps back. Sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board because you're making little inferences about stuff from tiny bits of data, and then you get some other data, and you're putting a puzzle together, which is actually, I think, the title of that article we were talking about. The article in question was actually a very interesting study of an outbreak in a nursing home where many of the residents were most of the residents were vaccinated, and the way it was being pitched was because a small number of them had gotten sick. Of the vaccinated people, these are 80-year-olds, people like that, had gotten sick, and I think even one died, a couple hospitalized. The headline conclusion was vaccines don't work, whereas when you went through the data and sifted through and saw the effectiveness rates and stuff, it was actually a fairly dramatic reinforcement that they did work, because there was a dramatic difference between the people who got vaccinated, didn't get vaccinated, and who survived and who had mild illness. So it just shows how tricky this stuff can be. And I think, tying this back to the vaccine issue, I'm at the point now in the country and in the state and in Flagler County for sure of thinking about the vaccine program as an unqualified success, even though we haven't reached the goals we ultimately want to get to. Even the rollout, even the vaccine process itself, not just their development. And I think what we're going to start seeing, and these data I think are being looked at, is that we're going to start looking at the people who are in the hospital, how many of those are vaccinated and how many aren't. And I think what you're going to find going forward is that the vast majority of the deaths and the hospitalizations are coming from the unvaccinated group. And that's something that's pretty sobering. And I hope it will give pause to people to really consider the risks that they're taking, because we get dramatic responses about a few people getting blood clots and things like that. But this death thing that's hundreds a day still is something we kind of gloss over.
I feel like what happens a lot with for just the lay person like me, for example, trying to come to some conclusion about science in general, you can always find some kind of a study that seems to give a counterindication of some kind of prevailing scientific theory, like global warming, for example. You could find 1 or 2 studies here and there that seem to say, are we really getting warmer or not? But and the same thing with vaccines or anything to do with the pandemic. But I think that the key and why I rely on your presence on the show and in general in the community so much is that you got to look at the hundreds of other studies. And if you see that there's 1 or 2 outliers that don't support the general, theory that seems to be, marching forward, you have to take those into context. And I think that's the danger is sometimes on Facebook, you get an article about one study that seems to be an outlier, and then people can sometimes jump to a conclusion based on that one without looking at the 100 or 1,000 other things that kind of give the general consensus of everybody. So as you said, science is messy, but it seems like we just have to make sure to put in the work to do the broader survey of what's going on.
Well, and I think too, we put out there that enough information for people to make their own smart decision. And if one person's smart decision is somebody else's stupid decision. But at the same time, you have a right to do that. Nobody's saying you have to go get vaccinated. We're just saying this is why we think you should. But I guess, I've used the word a lot, cognitive bias. We all do cognitive biases and all kinds of things, from climate change. I believe in it. I don't believe, whatever it is. But once we form that file folder, that this is what we believe, we look for things to stuff in it that support that belief, right or wrong. Mm-hmm. And so I think as long as we kind of look at it like, okay, well, I'm a human, I'm doing the same thing, but challenge and question that cognitive belief at its foundation before you just start piling on things to it, and whatever the topic would be.
We do that a lot, especially with politics. If I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, then it seems like what we do is once my Democratic leader or my Republican leader says something, I don't try to figure out if they're right or wrong. I try to figure out why they're right. Or, I'm a Republican, so Joe Biden did something. Well, how can I figure out why that was a bad decision? It seems like that's kind of what we get into in this polarized kind of climate. And
it's the way we're wired. Like I've said, I believe that we were made this way for the survival of the species. Because if we all believed one way, we probably would have been wiped out a million years ago. So here we are. So that's where we are. All
History
right.
of the world on Free for All Friday.
No charge for that session. Hey, well, also for the people that say, wow, the health department is nothing but they're no fun people. Debbie Downer. All they want to do is throw cold water. They don't want us to have fun. They don't want us to have fireworks. They don't want us to get together. It's the cancel culture of the health department. And so here you guys are. But we did have a kind of a little brainstorming meeting. It was Steve Bickle and Bob Snyder and me, and we kind of brainstormed out where do we go from here, and about special events and gatherings in the community. And it was just an open discussion, and I thought it was pretty good. And Steve, you kind of came up with some points here. I'll just read the bullet point, and then you comment on it. And we only have a few minutes before we go to Tallahassee. But you said special events will boost morale and rebuild spirits within our community. That was what you say, and so you believe this is a reason why we need to get special events going again.
Definitely. I think we're in a shift now where I think it's now going to become more individual responsibility for protecting yourself and getting vaccinated or whatever other measures. And also we need to get back to our lives. I mean, we've all taken quite a hit this year from.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another one, emphasize the importance of personal responsibility and respect for others. This pretty well goes without saying. Assuming, which is an assuming here, by the end of May, all adults 18 plus will have access to a vaccine. Is that in your...
Definitely.
Okay, so we're on track.
So in other words, at some point, you have to say that the normal life resumes, and if you don't get a vaccine and you're putting yourself basically at risk by walking around without being vaccinated, then that's on you.
Yeah, and I think if there was no downside to the institutional protection of people, that'd be one thing. Mm-hmm. But it's restricting commerce, restricting social activities. So that's the trade-off. And I think that, to me, in our messaging, that's what the two things we're going to be focusing on is, one, watch the hospitalization and death rates and who's that's happening to. And I think you're going to find more and more it's the unvaccinated population. And the second thing is that vaccinations, look at it as a way to open up society, and those are two big pluses.
But is the tipping point of reopening society 100% and taking off restrictions and whatever, is that once we hit herd immunity, or once supply is great enough for vaccines where you can make your own smart decision? Well, because one is going to be months in the future still. One is pretty much now.
Well, the thing is that's herd immunity is a tough concept to get your arms around, and we're in a realm of some herd immunity right now, even maybe approaching the threshold. But that's partly why the numbers are coming down. So it's a tough concept. The idea is the spread is less because a lot of the people are immune now. And so when we get into looking at society, I think what we're going to find is the case rates are going to stay up there for a while because we have a lot of unvaccinated people. And a lot of these unvaccinated people don't want to wear masks either. So it's like, it's both things. But we're going to find the death rates continuing to go down, hospitalization rates continuing to go down, the most vulnerable section of our society protected. So at that point, it's like it becomes more like the flu. In fact, there have been some editorials on once it hits that level, we should just go back to more or less normal activity because we don't restrict for the flu.
Well, and everybody, and all you people that think that the health department is nothing but a bunch of Debbie Downers and people not fun to hang out with, know that the health department is saying and showing some guidance. So, and also, Steve, the outdoor activities carry less for virus transmission than indoor events. So what is it? So people planning events, whether it be churches or people like us that are, put on festivals and concerts and things like that. What is the formula that we should be using moving forward? How should we be thinking?
There's a couple different ways to look at it, but basically outdoor events way safer. If you can add social distancing to the outdoor event, then it almost makes masks superfluous. There are people out there saying if you got 2 out of 3, you got outdoors, you got masks, or you got social distancing, 2 of those 3 are fine. I think that's the big one, is emphasizing outdoor, because outdoors there's a lot more space than people realize. Anyway, we did the calculations for Veterans Park, and can hold a lot of people there and at a socially safe distance.
So if you had outdoors and masks, but there's a lot of people kind of shoulder to shoulder, you would think that would be okay at this stage of the pandemic.
Yeah, and a lot of those people vaccinated.
Yeah, true.
So
half of 16 plus, or 79% of those 65 plus.
And the unvaccinated being the lower risk people for serious illness. Mm-hmm. So I think it's tough to make that shift because we've been so into the lockdown. Yeah. But the other one, David, we worked through together was coming up with what square footage you need for different size groups to give more direct guidance to people, like how to plan their events, how many they get
for indoor.
Specifically,
yeah, okay.
And outdoor. So
yeah, both, but indoor especially, it becomes a limiting factor.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, so this is good. So basically, and stop me if I'm wrong, for outdoor, an average of 6 square feet per person. But if you're with your family of 4 or 5 people, you can all sit together. But for the total venue, it'd be 6 square feet per person. But that's a number that professional concert users, we do also, because that allows for aisle room and people walking around and getting past you. Not that you need 6 square feet. But that's plenty of space for people to not be crowded is the point.
So with something like the Freedom Fest coming up, to give a plug for the Freedom Fest, right? July 3rd.
July 3rd. Travis Hudson, are you going to come to Freedom Fest July 3rd at the airport?
Hey there, guys. I am going to try to, as long as we don't have a special session, which you're talking about right now.
Well, we're going to talk business with you in a second, but I just wanted to bring you into the conversation. Go ahead, Brian. Travis. Finish your...
So with the Freedom Fest... You're going to have, why do you need to worry about square feet? Because it's outdoors, and therefore, and you encourage masks, but do you not then require masks and have people kicked out because, well, it's your personal choice. It's your personal responsibility to get vaccinated.
We were pushing to masks recommended in certain settings and not required. And also, when we did the calculations for these outdoor events, the numbers came out more than you'd expect at the event anyway, so they actually weren't limiting. Is that?
Oh yeah, I mean at the airport, open air. I mean, there's a gazillion.
Is there any reason to limit the number of attendees, or to have staff trying to enforce the masks?
We came up with that. Yeah. If you looked at how many in the past, it was okay. With those numbers. So.
All right.
So business as usual for Freedom Fest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what we recommend.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
See, you heard it first here.
We heard it first here.
Thank you for scooping me, though, on the story of Sean Parr coming to the Songwriter Festival. Anyway, that's a different thing. All right, let's not be rude to our senator who's working hard for us in Tallahassee. Senator Travis Hudson, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. I've got Gretchen Smith here from the Health Department.
Good morning.
Gretchen, how are you?
And
I'm
also
good.
Dr. Steve Bickle, you heard him departing words of wisdom to us.
Good morning, Senator Hudson.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
also,
sir. Good morning.
and Brian with the Observer.
Good morning.
All right, Travis, I know we have limited time with you, so kind of give us a quick overview from the Senate with the sessions going on. Give us be our reporter, if you would, and give us a report.
We are hopefully winding down in session, but I think everybody heard the news. We are planning a possible special session to deal with the gaming and Seminole Compact that was announced yesterday by the tribe and the governor. We think we have a deal, although it's not signed yet. They're still negotiating, but if we do, it could mean what I'm hearing is about $500 million to the state of Florida. And we'll come back and do the special session. It is in my silo, so I'll be the one that brings everyone back. So out of the 39 senators, I may be the most hated man in the world right now. But we can get it done. And it's something the state of Florida, and the governor, or not this governor, but also past governors, have been working on for about 6 years. So we're trying to land this plane. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing because it's additional revenue to the state of Florida.
Okay.
That seems like that could have a big impact on the budget discussion.
It will be for next year's budget.
Okay,
We will
gotcha.
not be able to receive the revenues this year. But the good news for anyone listening, because I think about 85% of the people that have been polled in the past want it, we will have sports betting in the state of Florida. So that's something that's been on a lot of people's minds, and we could get it done.
Senator, some of the bills that you introduced, if you can just kind of lightly educate us to what it is and why, and what the status is. Senate Bill 132, rental of homestead property. What's that about?
Yeah, that bill actually made it through one committee, did not make it through the House, but it allows you to, if you have homestead property and you wanted to rent out like a mother-in-law suite, or you got a duplex and you wanted to rent that out, you currently, if you rent it, you lose your homestead. And we said if you live there for full time, which in Florida is more than 6 months, you want to lose your homestead. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but it's a valid discussion, and I think we need to have it next year.
Okay. And if you could give us a quick civics lesson here, because, as a senator, you come up with a bill and you introduce it. Kind of quickly walk us through what hurdles does it have to get through? And I know there's a lot.
No, that's a great question. So I could introduce a bill. I have to go through normally 3 committees, sometimes 4, but go through 3 committees and get it to the floor. My House counterpart has to do the same thing. And when we both get it to the floor, it has to pass off either side. And once it does that, on either side, it goes to the governor for signature. Okay.
And your House counterpart is?
On that particular bill is Representative Stevenson.
Okay. So it's kind of like, you made some progress this year, so then you go back, readdress it next year if you still really believe in it and their support. So it's kind of a sport, like pushing it downfield?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
I said, is it kind of like a sport where you're pushing the ball down the field?
Yes. So we have to work in coordination, and sometimes we can amend our bill on our side and the House not like it, and it will not move, or vice versa. So you're in constant coordination with the people of your body, but also the people of the other body. And you'll see, if you guys are watching on the Florida channel, because I know millions of people are, there'll be bills that we send over that gets bounced back because we're just not in agreement. Some of them we figure out the agreement. Some of them we just let die at the 11th hour.
What are there any bills this year that you introduced that made it through the gauntlet?
Yeah, so I did a boating bill with FWC that's on the House calendar Monday, should pass, but it deals with boating safety. It allows the department to breathalyze people and deal with the fact if they refuse a breathalyzer, if they're boating and drinking. But more importantly, it deals with derelict vessels. We've got a big problem, mostly in South Florida, but you do see some in our areas where there's a derelict vessel, like a sailboat, just shipwrecked. they can remove those. And the big thing in that bill that I've been asking for 3 years, they can clean them up and then create artificial reefs within our area to try and help the ecosystem. So that's a big bill that is going on. I passed the bill that the governor signed into law recently about distilleries, allowing our local distilleries to increase their caps. They can sell more than 6 bottles, and more importantly, when you go in to see them, they can actually make you a drink and sell you a drink. Normally, they just did tastings, and now you can walk in and say, "Hey, I hear you're the best in town. Can you make me, Negroni, or can you make me an old fashioned?" And they will make it to you and sell it to you for whatever price it is. So that has been signed into law already.
Back to your boating safety. It was just yesterday. I was actually on John Walsh's boat. It was strictly business anyway. But there was conversation that part of that was that you had to have the cutoff switch had to be connected to the captain at all times, regardless of the size of the vessel.
That's in the House bill, not in the Senate bill, and we did not take that position, so we've sent it over. I believe they're looking into whether they want to take our language or theirs, but it wasn't in my particular language.
Okay. Let's see, other one here. Any other bills that you did that are moving along?
There's a couple preemption bills that I had up yesterday. Preemption of local government, and what it was, there's 2. It's for consumers. One's natural gas, and one's gas stations. And there's been the city of Tampa has been the biggest one that passed, or they didn't pass. They introduced a ordinance that would broad blanket ordinance that would say we need to be to clean energy in 2030, 2045, and we could choose what energy is allowed in our city. And so that set off some red fires, right, where gas stations and natural gas, who are usually the target of clean energy, could be completely banned in our cities. So the 2 preemptions I did was, and it was for consumers, do not cut off, you can't ban gas stations, and do not cut off natural gas to the home. And I'm all for clean energy. I think we should move to clean energy. I think we should move to electric vehicles and solar. But what I don't want to do is a de facto ban where people are forced to do that. So letting the consumers make that choice and letting the free market decide are those 2 bills that I did yesterday on 3rd reading. So, and the House has already sent it over. So by Monday, I'm hoping to have those up, passed, and sent to the governor.
Brian?
Yeah, so Travis, these kind of preemption bills. I can understand where the state would be coming from to some extent, but then I also think, I'm a local person, local newspaper, so I'm always thinking, well, why can't the local governments make those kind of calls? If people don't like that, then they could vote out those people who are taking sort of extreme stances, if that's how they feel. And why not? Doesn't that kind of give more power to the voters themselves, to the individuals, rather than trying to manage that from the state level?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Brian. And I typically get the hard preemption bills because everybody knows I work good with the cities and counties. And this bill, if you've looked at it, every stop we've made concessions where the cities and counties and even the final stop didn't even come up and speak because they went neutral to the bill. The problem is, to your question, if today Palm Coast said no gas stations, shut them down, you don't have an election till 2022. So all gas stations can be shut down until the people can vote the other people out of office. And they have that within their powers. Not that they're going to do it. There's no cities that want to do it right now. But there's some ordinances on the books that they've agreed to, and I don't think they've thought it through. Again, not Palm Coast, but other cities in South Florida that says we're going to go clean energy by 2030, and this is how we're going to get there. And they don't talk about it, but by 2030, if they don't follow their ordinance on the books, they have to amend or they have to shut them down. So I just want consumers to have that choice, and I do not want anybody to wake up tomorrow or 5 years from now and realize they don't have gas stations to put gas in their car.
What are some of the bills that have passed that you voted for, and what are some that passed that you voted against so far?
So I voted for plenty of bills. I think the chamber mentioned the what we call the Wayfair bill, but it's a bill on the online sales tax. It's not a new tax. The federal government has said we have to do it, or we need to do it. It's not a new tax. It was a CPA that ran it who said it wasn't a new tax. He's also the chairman of the Republican Party of Florida, and it was signed by the governor. And more importantly, not only is it not a new tax, it also was offset with the unemployment assistance and the commercial sales tax. So we made sure it was net neutral. But that was a very important bill that gives so many benefits to our companies in the state of Florida. It was reported by your local chamber. Great bill. There's only one bill that I can recall this year that I'm voting against. It's the Seaport bill that deals with Key West. There was a referendum down there to not allow cruise ships to come into their seaport. And I took a stance from just a principled stance of referendum. When there's a referendum, it goes to the voters. I think it was 10,000 voters voted against cruise ships coming in. And as a legislative body, I don't think we should go overturn the will of the voters. I think that the cruise industry has a legit argument where that referendum breaks maritime law, and I think that they probably would win a lawsuit if they tried. But they're coming up to the legislature to say overturn this, and that to me is just wrong.
Kind of a looming thing is redistricting. People are concerned about that when that's determined by population and everything. What do you see with the future of that possibility?
Well, the redistricting is coming. We're probably going to know more by October, November is what we're hearing. We don't know what the maps are going to look like. The interesting thing with the amendments that are passed about it is we're not really allowed to talk about it unless it's public settings. But I can tell you, just looking at basic math, my district has grown proportionally, for the most part, with the rest of the population. So I expect my district to stay pretty much the same. Again, I don't know. I'm not allowed to discuss with other people. We don't even know who the chair of redistricting is. But mathematically, I feel pretty confident that St. John's and Flagler are still going to be who I represent. Volusia may lose a little bit of the population, but feel comfortable where we are right now.
We're just talking before you came on, too, about the real problem in the business community is finding workers, and there's different opinions about why that is. But and it also comes down to workforce housing and a big shortage of it. For this particular area, Flagler County, what's the answer? What can we do? How can Travis Hudson help us out here? But everybody, nobody wants it. So anyway, I'll just let you take it from there. You get the situation, you hear from people. What's the answer?
Great question. There's a bill that Senator Gruz is doing on impact fees where governments, it's not my area, but governments across the state are increasing impact fees by hundreds of percent, and that obviously has an effect. When you talk about workers, I actually have another bill, and it's probably something I've been working on 3 years ago, and getting it done. It's coming off our floor Monday. It allows, so right now, when you're an apprentice, right, you're doing the on-the-job type training stuff, local businesses will not hire you because they're afraid that if you get hurt, you become part of the workers' comp. They're afraid if you get hurt, it increases their workers' comp. So what we've done is said if you're an apprentice and you're under the age of 18, and a business wants to hire you, you are a state employee. You now are part of us. And it dilutes that workers' comp pool and incentivizes the business to hire them. That is, again, going off our floor. I presented that yesterday, I believe it was, and it's headed to the Florida House. and I hope it gets done. It's about a $2 million fiscal, but I worked with our president all year on this, and he agreed that this is something that needs to get done. So I hope the Florida House takes it up, because having these kids apply to businesses before they're 18 years old and get those on-the-job training will help them get jobs in the future.
Very good. Let's see, Senator Hudson, I know you got to get on, and I promised we'd have you out of here by around 9:50 so you can get to you. Where do you have to go at 10 o'clock?
Actually, David, I could stay for a little bit more. We had session planned at 10 o'clock. We were going on the floor. Yesterday, we moved somehow 57 bills in about, I don't know what it was, 9-10 hours. So the president said, take the day off. So we are all traveling back home. I have packed up out of my hotel. I'm ready to go, but I can stay another 4 or 5 minutes if you need me.
Okay. Can you stay for a minute commercial break?
Yeah, of course. No problem.
All right, well, listen to the commercials, and we'll be right back here with Free for All Friday. I'm David Ayres. Senator Travis Hudson on the phone with us right now, Gretchen Smith, and Dr. Bickle with the Health Department, Brian McMillan, editor, Palm Coast Observer, and, of course, most importantly, we got you. We'll be right back.
It'll save you a lot of money in the long run.
Save on paint.
Save on labor.
And saves you time.
All Benjamin Moore exterior paint's on sale now.
Come in, pick out your colors, and choose your painter.
You'll get more at Benjamin Moore. Corner of Old Kings and Utility Drive.
Palm Coast.
No, we're not going to Chicken Pantry.
Why not?
Because I'm broke. We're going here.
Flagler Tax? What's that?
Come with me. Don't say a word.
Hi there. Welcome to Flagler Tax.
How fast can you get my taxes done?
Pretty quick, actually.
I should have a nice return.
My mom said it was broke.
Okay.
Buddy, don't tell people we're broke.
So we can this chicken?
Sure we can.
And that's
Flagler Tax Service. Call 793-7156.
Hi, I'm Pastor Don Schultz from Voyage Church in Flagler Beach.
And I'm his wife, Leah.
We were rear-ended by a big truck, and both of us sustained some serious injuries. So there was a lawyer in our church, and I asked him who he would recommend. He said there's only one, that's Katz and Green.
And we're so glad he did.
And we would really recommend them to anyone who needs a personal injury attorney.
I'm Jeff Green.
And I'm Paul Katz.
We've been Flagler County's personal injury lawyers since 1988.
Our office, our only office, is in Palm Coast.
Thank you, Katz and Green.
9:51, good-looking Friday. And if you're listening in a podcast, I hope it's a good day then, too. It's can't control everything, right, Dr. Bickle?
Exactly. We'd like to, but...
Okay. Well, here's a guy we're talking with from Tallahassee that's got his hand on the stick here and flying us through all these crazy times, Senator Travis Hudson. And okay, well, great. I appreciate you hanging with us, Travis. What accomplish, if you look back and you say, okay, for people in Flagler County that voted for Travis Hudson, what would you say? Hey, guys, look what I did for you and our community.
The education bill I just talked about, I think, is a big deal. So that, I've always prided myself on education. I've always prided myself on vocational education and trying to keep people realizing that college, if you can't get to college, you're not lost, right? Because that's where we lead to kids doing things that are troubling and ended up incarcerated. So what I'm trying to do up here is make sure that if you're not a brainiac, there's something for you to do in life, and there's a purpose and a passion that you can have. So that workforce education bill that I did this year ties into the bills last year that 2 years ago that I did, where we have two different degrees to graduate. There's a college degree and a vocational education degree. And that, to me, is why I still keep doing this. I'm not done yet. I want to continue to do it. I want to make sure that we're increasing vocational education into our middle schools. Right now, it's only high school because that's where I started, but I want to bring it all the way down the ladder so that kids can get passionate about something. And if they're not college bound, we've got something for them to do, and I'll continue to push that.
We have kind of a very interesting dynamics here with our with the legislature. We have Paul Renner, we've got Travis Hudson, we have a governor who used to live in Palm Coast, and we got Michael Waltz, all representing this area here. How, I mean, those are unusual dynamics, kind of like with everybody kind of being on the same thing, but that's going to probably fall apart. So what has been a good benefit of having 4 players like that pretty much on the same team?
Well, I think the benefit is that we all get along, right? So where there may be a problem, Mike Waltz is one phone call or text away. Congressman Waltz has been great to work with. Same thing with the governor. The governor is one phone call or text away. And future Speaker Paul Renner. There's a bill that we're working on right now that they're talking about. It's a big deal. It deals with elections reform, where the governor and I and Speaker Renner are going to sit down and try and negotiate out. And it doesn't usually work that way, because sometimes there's bills that different members file. One from North Florida, one from South Florida, and it gets into a kind of a headbutting match. But there's times where the stars align like this, where it's like, hey, this is important. Let's figure out and make sure our elections are secured, and can we work together? And that's something that is a benefit when the stars align. And fortunately, they've aligned for this region.
So, in wrapping up here, because we got to go now, we're almost out of time. What do you see as trouble ahead for us? Looking ahead over the next year or two, what's the biggest challenge for us here in Flagler County?
Well, I think we need to. You mentioned affordable housing. I think we need to keep focusing on that issue. I think we need to keep focusing on our students. We're coming out of COVID, right? Everybody, you mentioned this earlier on your show as I just came on. We're coming out of COVID and trying to get back to normal life. So the question is, what does that look like? How do we do it? How does it affect our businesses? That's the biggest issues we have right now. We want to get people back to being normal and what they were before COVID, pre-COVID, but we still know it exists. So vaccinations are important. If you have pre-existing conditions, and you want to continue wearing a mask, do so. But at the same time, if you're vaccinated and you don't want to wear a mask, you don't have to. So that's some issues we're trying to deal with at the state, but also the local level.
Okay. Any other questions for Senator Travis Hudson before we let him get on with his day? We got to get on with ours.
I don't think so. Thanks a lot for keeping us updated, Travis.
Gretchen?
No problem. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you very much for all you do.
Dr. Bickle?
Yeah, thank you for the overview of everything. It's a lot. It sounds like you accomplished quite a bit.
All right. Well, hey, I guess that wins you an award for the day. That may be the biggest applause you get all day, Travis.
That is the biggest applause I've gotten in the last week. Thank you.
All right, take care, be safe, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
All right, Travis Hudson is our...
Gotta find a way
senator.
to multi-layer that applause so it sounds a little richer.
Wow. See,
Sounds kind of
here,
thin.
let me
I want like thousands of people cheering for me.
See, we're letting Brian do podcast in here now, so now he's become an expert.
Oh yeah.
So why we have a second? Give us a quick update on your podcast.
So my friend Mike and I are doing a podcast called Best Picture This, where it's always Oscar season. We reevaluate every Best Picture nominee from the 21st century and decide whether to keep it or kick it from its Oscar pedestal. So we do a movie every week, and we've done we're pretty new into it, but we've hit 25 episodes, so it's not totally, we haven't dissolved like a lot apparently do after like 7 episodes, I think is the average failure rate. But we do have a little mini series that's coming up over the summer, which is we're going to do these bonus episodes on the movies that are going to be played at the library, to kind of like, and we're going to do it on the Palm Coast Observer's platform, like on Facebook and on YouTube. So that way people can kind of learn about the movie, what's the director of photography doing in News of the World, for example, which is the first episode that we're going to be doing next Thursday evening on Facebook Live and YouTube. So it's a way to kind of help out the library, talk about movies, which everybody loves to do. So if you want to be a local sponsor of that show and help out the library, let us know.
Are we charging you at all? I mean, I'm seeing big dollars here.
No, I don't think there'll be big dollars, but
All right, we'll get them.
Anyway,
You're having fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great, and the podcast is on Apple and Spotify, and WNZF has been a big partner helping to produce those podcasts. So thanks a lot, David.
Quick plug here: if you would like to win a Daytona Mazda CX-5 right now, text 5 single-digit numbers to 361-4227. Right, it's 386-361-4227. Text your name and 5 single-digit numbers, and we will enter them into a Crack the Code box, and you could instantly win. We've had a lot of people winning cash prizes and things. This is the final day of the contest, so we want to give
How many people say 11111?
We had 00001, and then we post the video. So do that. Hey, we got to go real quick here. Gretchen, what?
Okay, so you can get vaccinated tomorrow at St. Elizabeth and Seton between 8:30 and 1:30, or you could get vaccinated on Sunday at the airport, 120 Airport Road, between 10 and 12. There's no appointments necessary. So
all right.
Just go on and check out our website for more openings next week.
Dr. Bickle, thank you for being in the studio today. Good to see you.
Great show. Happy to be here with you guys.
Everybody have a super weekend. Be safe.